We're back for another Inside the Wave game preview, this time with Adam from Mean Green Nation to preview tomorrow's Tulane versus North Texas matchup. Adam, how are you doing, and what is your site, Mean Green Nation?
Hey, I'm glad to be here. I'm doing great. I'm excited. It's Friday, which means that you kind of get all those hopes and dreams about tomorrow's game, happening. Mean Green Nation is an independent site, and we've been publishing for sort of forever. It seems like I think I don't remember when we officially started. We started doing it about 2010, 2011, like more seriously. It's on Substack right now, but we used to be like a WordPress site and that kind of thing. There's the site, there's the podcast, there's YouTube. We had a lot of users saying, "Hey, let's can we get the podcast on YouTube?" So we do there, and we publish some film room stuff on there too. So we're kind of everywhere where there is internet. We're on Twitter, the whole thing, or X. See, I'm old because I still call it Twitter now.
That's sick. How long have you personally been covering the team for?
Since I was a student, where it was like just on my personal blog. I think it was, I want to say 2008, 2009, something like that. Yeah. So wow. it ends up being a thing where you just kind of do it because it's fun. You're talking about the team, and then you realize that there are other like-minded people out there that want to listen to crazy opinions about your favorite team. So yeah.
Wow. I think our Spear, which is like our third cornerback from last week, who got the start in place of Caleb Ransaw, Javion White. I think he was probably 2 when he started covering North Texas. So that's really impressive.
That kind of stuff happens when I was a student. I think like one of the older message boards, like GoMeanGreen.com. You could find me on there too. They had been doing it for a long time, and I was like, wow, this thing is old. And you realize one day you kind of become that person. I always like to tell the story about like when I was a student in North Texas. You kind of walk around and you'd see the alums going and say, "Hey, this building wasn't here when I was a student." And then, you're kind of like, "Yeah, sure, whatever, old man, get out the way. I got to go to class." And then eventually, if you're lucky, you become one of those alums walking around on campus saying, "Hey, that building wasn't there," or "I used to eat here," and this kind of thing. And then you realize you've become the guy that's kind of in the way. It's the nature of things. It's fun. It's all part of the little circle of life kind of thing. So
Awesome. So last year, Tulane beat North Texas 35-28 on our homecoming.
Yes.
How do you think that North Texas got back in the game? Because I told our president at halftime, I was on homecoming court, and I walked on the field at halftime. I saw our president. He's like, "Hey, let's go." I was like, "Yeah, this game's over. Glad we won on homecoming." The halftime score was what, 28-7? 21-0 at half. I said this team is not going to blow a 3-score lead. They barely let up many points last season. Felt like the defense was the focal point of the team after offense was in the Cotton Bowl season. And then sure enough, Tulane only won 35-28, and I was sweating. It was 28-7 in the third quarter. And then UNT had 3 straight touchdowns to tie the game. I couldn't believe it. So how do you think they got back in the game last year?
Well, we've been talking about it amongst the Mean Green fandom, I suppose, is that Eric Morris he's a very good offensive coach, right? Like he's proven that in his time at Incarnate Word, and then when he was a coordinator at Washington State. And so if you give him enough time, he'll figure some things out. And I think the way, if you looked closely at the game, like North Texas was an almost team, right? They were sort of figuring out how they're going to do it. They had some miscues throughout that first half, where it's not like they were just stumbling and bumbling like one of those old timey cartoons where they're tripping over themselves. It was close, like they were almost getting a first down, just close getting converting a fourth down. And so I think those flipped, and they were able to convert those things, move down the field the way they had already been almost doing. And so like you saw that in the week, I think it was after that, they did the same thing against Memphis. It's one reason why coming into the season, we were very excited. Eric Morris is a very good offensive coach, and it's always there, like the threat of a score. And I think what we were hoping to see, and continue with that game, is a little bit more from the defense. And that's the other part, is that the defense was like very terrible last year, and I think y'all Tulane did it. We were walking up and down the field there, but there were enough spots where they could get a stop, and maybe Tulane kind of let off the gas a little bit, and that translates to 3 straight scores, right? I think ultimately, what did it end on, a failed fourth down conversion to land insides, or side? I believe that was the thing. I forget. It was.
Sounds right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, like I think Tulane has been good this season, but I don't think that they've seen the kind of offense that North Texas has, right? It's like top 10 in the country. Like it's not just good for the AAC, it's good nationally. And we'll get into this a little bit later, but I think that's the big key in this game is how well does the Tulane experienced defense do with this very good, very explosive North Texas offense.
So Morris told fans to get over themselves with an 11 a.m. start. Your stadium is actually the exact same size as ours. I saw that tickets are as low as $20. We've sold out 3 homecomings in a row. Are you guys going to sell out?
No, we're not selling this one out. The other part about Denton and Dallas, Denton is part of Dallas Fort Worth, right? And it's very much like Los Angeles in this way, in that there's just so much to do. I think once upon a time, I was counting it. There was an NBA game on, an NFL game on, in the Dallas Fort Worth region. There was a Major League Baseball game on, like a playoff game. You can go watch hockey. You can watch minor league hockey. You could watch MLS soccer all on the same weekend. And then I think there was a big time college football game playing at Jerry World or something like that. The long story short there is that there's so much to do. And so that if you have to be super interesting to make people get out there, right? So there's 300,000 alumni, North Texas alumni in the Dallas-Fort Worth region, but you're also asking them to drive an hour to get out to Denton at 11 a.m. And so, they may want to do that, but hey, you're going to do that with kids. That means you got to wake up, 2 hours early. Drive. There's a whole lot of things there. So there's a lot of friction there. It's not like, hey, you're going to walk down to the stadium and enjoy the football game. That'd be easy. Are you going to take 3 hours of your day on the Saturday morning to get there? Only the super passionate are going to do that. And I don't think it's a bad thing. There's a lot of great things about living in Dallas-Fort Worth. And it's just one of the challenges of attracting the attention there. But his point, I'm going to wake up and watch the game. Yeah, so, whatever. It's not a big deal to me. But I'm also writing and publishing about the team. So I'm an anomaly and not really the casual fan anyway. So
it's an interesting perspective. I'm glad we brought you on to share that with Tulane fans. Last year's matchup was on ESPN2, and so were 3 other Tulane home games last year. Your FAU game was on 2 earlier this season, and last week was on ESPNU, so also linear television. I think for homecoming, you don't really want that 11 a.m. slot in ESPN2. It is unfortunate for the fans, but it's your first ESPN2 game in over a decade, according to your athletic director. So is that meaningful?
Yes and no. Like I said, I'm a long-time fan, so I remember when you had to purchase a subscription. I remember when Tulane and North Texas were in the same conference in 2013, and there was Conference USA TV. You had to pay $8 for a terrible stream. So yeah, it's a lot easier to go to a bar, to go to a restaurant and say, hey, can you put the game on? It's on ESPN2, versus can you please put the game? It's on ESPN Plus, and then they're like, we don't have that kind of stuff. So yeah, for a casual fan or for people that are watching in because there's alums everywhere in New York, Washington State, whatever. They're all spread around the country. It's so much easier for them to get a hold of that versus, I don't know, any other option. Even it used to be a beIN Sports or something like that. So yes, it's significant, but I think, the diehard fans kind of know where the team's going to be and adjust their subscriptions accordingly. So yeah. For casuals, definitely a plus.
Awesome. Sounds like the game will be on at a lot of bars throughout the DFW area.
Yeah.
I believe that your top 3 running backs and some of your O-line have been injured. Is that still the case this week?
Yes. I think the running back gods, in a very Job-like way, they're let's take away, hey, whoever's good, whoever breaks a run, They break away. No, so like it's sort of a like a cosmic joke. The top three running backs are injured. One of whom, Kaika Ragsdale, was part of like the group, the previous group in the previous regime, where we had a great stable of running backs, and it would work out the same way. We had three or four that all could start, and then we'd slowly lose them throughout the season, where we end up with one. Ragsdale once, it was a couple years ago, scored the game-winning touchdown against UTSA, or the go-ahead touchdown, I mean, and then he was lost for the rest of the season. So it is terrible for North Texas, but we still find more. Our running back coach is a North Texas legend, Patrick Cobbs, and I don't know what he's doing, but he's like he's doing some running back whispering. He whispered in Shane Porter's ear and said, "I know you're a running back, you're a wide receiver, but now you're going to be our starting running back." And lo and behold, it has come to pass. He's converted wide receiver, and he's out there doing great. He's a starting running back. Mackenzie McGill is dangerous. He's shown some things. I think for a second there, he had like 14 touches, 5 touchdowns. And then I'm missing a running back in that group, the sort of Kiefer Sibley. He's shown some things also. The big knock on them is that they're all young or not, running backs by trade, but they're all good and they're all pretty dangerous. I think Shane Porter surprised a lot of Memphis fans last week by, breaking off some long runs. So.
Tulane's been forcing a lot of fumbles over the last few weeks to start conference play, so we'll see if maybe the young backs do that. And I'm interested to keep an eye on Porter as well. Are any of the O-line starters injured or just backups?
It seems like everybody's injured or will be injured, and what's basically happened all season is like whatever combination has been published on the depth chart changes after the second play of the game. Landon Peterson has played guard, he's played tackle, and he's been out of the game. Jet Duncan was a tackle last year. He's played center, and then he's moved to guard, and he's kind of moved back to tackle. There was a point in our second game of the season against Stephen F. Austin where we were on a third center. It was a converted guard playing center, because we were just going through the depth chart. I think the line coach has done a great job of getting everybody prepared, like cross-training the team. But I think there's a couple of things, and we'll talk about a little bit when we talk about some of the advanced numbers, where they don't kind of show that, right? One, I think I saw like North Texas is like on like yards, on third down yards to go was like, I think it was like 8.2. Part of the reason is because of offensive line play where they're holding or they're causing, doing false starts or something like that. And that's not because they're bad. It's because, hey, it was a guard playing center, right? And he just couldn't snap the ball. He did, kind of learning on the job. So, yeah, I wouldn't put too much stock in who's healthy enough to start the game because that hasn't really meant a whole lot. There's been a lot of guys getting injured throughout the game. I mean, we are still very fortunate. It's still one of the most explosive offenses in the nation despite that. So that's another reason why I'm very optimistic.
Adam, what's the key to victory for North Texas tomorrow?
I think there are two of them, right? One, can Chandler Morris continue to cook? Was at 23 touchdown passes against 8 interceptions, and 2 of those interceptions came against Texas Tech, where guys dropped the ball, like popped it up in the air, and Texas Tech got an easy interception. It was ridiculous. And then a few of those are like bad routes where like young freshman wide receivers are like, oh, I'm supposed to be here, and they're not supposed to be there at all, and then the ball just goes right to the defender. When he has protection and when he has, like guys running the routes you're supposed to, he's deadly, super accurate. I think Morris called him the most accurate quarterback he's ever coached, and that includes Patrick Mahomes. And the other part of that, the second key is, can the defense get off the field on third downs? It's a cliche, right, to say, win third downs, but I think last week North Texas had Memphis in like 3rd and 12, 3rd and 10 a couple times, and they converted, and a lot of that had to do with Seth Hennigan being an experienced quarterback. I'm interested to see what North Texas can do against a redshirt freshman in Mensa, right? So those 2 keys. Can they win the third down battles against, the Tulane offense? A very efficient offense.
On the flip side of late downs, North Texas actually tied for second in the whole nation with 13 fourth down conversions. So I'm interested to see if Tulane can stop North Texas on third and fourth down, as they have been one of the top 10 high scoring offenses and explosive offenses in the country. What do you think is the biggest weakness that Tulane can exploit? They have 77 newcomers, which leads FBS, including 41 freshmen. So a lot of new players on the field.
So if I'm from a Tulane perspective, if I'm game planning against North Texas, I like the Tulane defensive line. I think you guys go like 2-3 deep or something like that. From what I can saw, there's a lot of pressure. A couple of defensive tackles are pretty good. You at least got to the Rice quarterback pretty well. Is I would see what that front four can do against Chandler Morris and let him rush and then kind of drop 7 in coverage, and just see if you can make North Texas execute down the field a little bit. And then you kind of mix that up with some other pressures. But like the challenge there is I think, as John Summerall said in his weekly press conference, is making sure everybody's eyes are right. I saw a couple of Tulane guys, kind of miss some assignments. I think like number 23 is Adams. I think he's like one of the safeties or something, right?
Kevin Adams, sophomore, yeah.
Yeah, and you can tell that like Rice specifically targeted him. They were making him make decisions in space, and he had some good plays and had some bad plays. But that you can see why, right? He's the youngest guys. I think everybody else is like upperclassmen. So football is a weakness game. You find pressure points, and then you pressure that until the other team makes you not, or makes you pay for that. So North Texas weaknesses is on the front line. SFA had a powerful pass rush. They got some pressure. Tulane goes like 2 or 3 deep. I mean, not Tulane. I'm sorry, Tulsa. And they got some pressure in there. So when North Texas struggles, it's along that offensive line when they bring pressure there. So I'd see how that works. And then if that's not working, then you kind of change it up. Memphis brought a lot of pressure and said, okay, well, we'll see how well you can hold up against in your max protection, and see if you can get the ball off Chandler Morris. And for like 3-4 straight series, it worked, and they were able to get the stops. North Texas got 3 or 5 straight 3-and-outs on Memphis. Very explosive offense, but the offense couldn't get a lead there, and it was because Memphis was equally as good. So yeah, if I'm Tulane, that's where I try to attack the North Texas offense.
Nice. Adam, what's your score prediction for the season?
I think in the preseason, like we did an ebook in this preseason, I think I said 41-24. I felt like Tulane was like an experienced team. I mean, Summerall's like basically never lost a league title. He's a very good coach. I respect him. But I think that North Texas right now is playing some very good football offensively. They're clicking, and they're getting a little healthier in the wide receiver spots, and so I'm bullish there. I think I predicted an upset. Like I said, I did this in the preview, and I can't remember the score line, so I'm going to look it up. So I'm going to vamp a little bit while I scroll down to my preview post. Yeah, I said North Texas 34, Tulane 27. And it's based on the fact that from what I saw, Mensa is he's a good quarterback. He's mobile. He can throw on the run, but I think the pass game is sort of like self-destructive. Was it Williams dropped a couple wide open passes against Rice? That was terrible. And they basically had to win the game with that early fourth quarter drive where they just said, all right, we're just going to rely on Micah Hughes and just say, all right, let's win the game this way. They played the style of game that Memphis does, like run the ball for second downs, and then in short yardage that your quarterback cook, a lot of play action, this, that, and the other. And that works. But I think Hennigan is a better quarterback like today than Mensa. Maybe in the future Mensa's better. But North Texas was made to pay because Hennigan was not flustered by the third and longs. He was not flustered by exotic looks. And I think a young quarterback is more likely to be flustered by those things. But, I mean, obviously, guy's talented. He's starting for a good team. I think he's ready for those challenges. So, but that's it. Homecoming, 31-24. A little upset, short game, lots of running. There you go.
Interesting. We'll see what happens. I have Tulane winning in somewhat of a shootout in this one, but definitely on top. Parker Fleming's stats OR CFB Insiders has this as 34-33 Tulane. Very close game. So, Adam, thank you so much. Tulane fans, make sure to go out to Mean Green
Mean Green Nation.
Network.
Yeah. Mean Green Nation.
Mean Green Network, or Nation, sorry, and check out Adam's preview of the game on his site. Thank you very much, Adam.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Roll wave.